Hi everyone, it's Freya here from Avon Wildlife Trust, and today I'm making our first My Wild Child video here at St George Park. And we're going to be having a good look today at trees. Now trees are really important because they offer a home to lots and lots of wildlife, including birds, like these friendly blackbirds I've got here, and like squirrels, like this one here, who like to scamper up the trees along the branches looking for nuts. And they also offer a home to lots of different insects. But trees are also really important because they make oxygen, which is what's in the air all around us that we breathe. So, should we go and have a look at some of the trees that live here at St George Park? Let me show you. So as you can see, it's a lovely day here at the park. And I'm up the slope looking down at the lake, on the slope where we normally have our My Wild Child sessions. And behind me are these great big plane trees where we sometimes do bug hunting down in the long grass around here. And these plane trees have really knobbly, bobbly bark, and they have great big leaves. But I'm going to walk down the slope a little bit to find some of the trees over near the lake. So this is a tree that grows very tall, and you can see its strong trunk here, and underneath the trunk will be its roots going down into the ground. And above its trunk are its branches reaching up into the sky. And at the end of its branches are its leaves. So one way that we can tell what kind of tree this is by looking at its leaves. So if we look at these leaves, we can see that they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points coming out from the center. And these leaves get quite big. Some of them are almost as big as my hand. And on the back of this leaf, if you look really carefully, and you might have to use your magnifying glass to see these, you can see there are some tiny little eggs that have been laid there by an insect. So another clue that we can look at to help us find out what kind of tree this is are these seeds. And the seeds of this tree are these bits here, the green knobbly bits. And attached to them are these wings which help the seed to fly when it comes off the tree. So it flies far away. And where the seed lands, another tree will start to grow. So from looking at the leaves and these seeds, which we call helicopters because of the way they fly, I can tell that this tree behind me is a sycamore. So this big tree here behind me is the ash tree. Let's have a closer look at its leaves. So this is all one ash leaf, and it's got lots of little leaflets like fingers coming off the main stem. And we can also have a look at the ash tree seeds. Ash tree seeds look like this, and they're called keys. And I think it's because they look like a bunch of keys. So while you're exploring the park, why not have a look under some of the trees to see if you can find some of these special leaves and these very special seeds lying on the ground. Next to the lake here is this giant tree, which is a kind of pine tree. So pine trees have very interesting leaves And they're very different to leaves on other trees, because if you look closely you can see they're long and pointy and spindly, and they're called needles because they look a bit like the kind of needle that you might use to sew clothes. And pine trees, in amongst their needles, have cones growing. So you can see one here, and this is where all their little seeds are hidden. So while you're having a look for this giant pine tree, have a look on the ground underneath it and see if you can see any cones. I found this one on the ground a little bit earlier. So whilst you're here exploring St George Park, or if you're out somewhere else on a walk and there happen to be trees around, look out for these leaves and these seeds. So remember, this was the sycamore. It's a bit like a hand, and it's helicopter seeds that spin around in the wind. And this leaf here is from the ash tree with all its little leaflets and its bunch of keys. And over here we have the leaves from the pine tree, which are like needles, long and spindly and spiky, and the pine cone where the seeds are hidden. So whilst you're wandering around, see if you can find any of those on the ground underneath the trees that you're looking at. And there's a couple of other activities you can do whilst you're looking at the trees too, and I'm going to show you what those are now. So one of the other things that you can do when you're exploring the trees is have a look at their bark. Because different trees have different textures, different lines, different shapes in their bark, depending on the type of tree and depending how they've grown over the many, many years they've been alive. And to help me have a bit more of a closer look at the bark, I'm going to make a bark rubbing. So you could take with you a piece of paper and a crayon, place it on the tree, and then with your crayon, if you rub up and down, you'll start to see the pattern of the bark coming through onto your paper. And this tree that I've chosen is the ash tree. And so you can see the pattern of the bark running down in lines where my crayon has picked it up. And the other thing that you could do whilst you're out and about getting to know the trees is to see if you can see any birds living in them. And to do that you could use our garden bird detective spotter sheet. And if you've picked up one of our special My Wild Child kits, then you'll have one of these in there. You can also print it off from our Wildlife Watch website. So you can use these, and if you watched our video a couple of months ago, you might have made a pair of toilet roll binoculars. So you could take those with you and use them to look up to the tops of the trees to find the birds. And if you haven't made a pair, they're very easy to make, and you could watch our birds video to find out how we've done it. So have fun getting to know the trees when you're out and about, and if you'd like to, you can share some photos with us on the My Wild Child Facebook group. See you soon!